Welcome to Super Bowl commercial review day after. It was awesome.
The recap issue is what Kirsten was calling it, and we're going to rebrand that. But we get into all of our favorite commercials that we saw at Super Bowl. We're going to talk about also what we loved about Bad Bunny, because it's something that you can actually learn from.
Yes.
Like learn from as a brand. So listen into that. Tell us what we missed. Tell us what you loved. Tell us where you disagreed or agreed with us. And congratulations to everyone who put a commercial out, because it's no easy feat. So
yeah.
Hope you're sleeping and listening to this while you're snoozing.
I hope you enjoy it.
Ciao. Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in GoodCo, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Welcome to Good Thinking Super Bowl spot recap.
Super Bowl spot recap. We got to rename that, but yeah. We'll workshop that another day. I mean, we could just call it Benito Bowl, and then like all the other commercials that have followed or surrounded the best part of the Super Bowl.
For sure, the best part of the Super Bowl. I mean, let's start there.
I had it at the top of the list because I was like, it's not really a commercial, but wow. Like, just phenomenal. It's really, I can't do it justice really with like, too much enthusiasm over the air, but it was incredible.
It was incredible. And I think it was really, the reverberations of the impact will be felt for a while. Like, I think it's more impressive and more impactful than any of us realize.
Totally. And the message that he put out and just the way, how thoughtful he was, like, it just felt like there was layers. Like you could literally spend all day looking for the Easter eggs that like meant something to him. And it wasn't something that just kind of like happened. It was like he put messages everywhere for you to go and read. And there was obviously the big one of like, love is more powerful than hate. But yeah, just so good. Just so good.
So good. And maybe just, I don't have to read it, but maybe we'll include it in the letter, the email that goes out. Because one of the most impactful things for me that I had read a couple of days ago was a quote that Ricky Martin, who obviously at that point I didn't know was going to be in the Super Bowl, but Ricky Martin said about Bad Bunny was basically that he'd done all of these things without ever compromising. And I think that's like so meaningful and so deep and so true. And you look at somebody as amazing as Ricky Martin, and obviously he had to, compromise his sexuality and who knows what else. And I just think Bad Bunny doing this, like really believing in himself and without compromise across the board is just beyond fucking impressive.
Yeah, I mean, sacrificing his native language, like just that, like not just his sexuality, but like how he communicates and expresses himself is just terrible. So it was really nice to see him there, and I enjoyed like everything about it. Like I enjoyed that he had Zara outfits on, like custom Zara outfits on. Enjoyed that.
Yep.
Enjoyed the fact that he had a Puerto Rican sign language interpreter instead of an American sign language interpreter, so that she would understand all the slang and references that he has. And I think like the whole performance to me is an example of lore, and like lore done well. He has so much lore in his songs. Like if you know about his songs, like he talks about, like he'll reference literally folklore but other like kinds of things throughout his life and places that he loves and things that happened in Puerto Rico. And he did that physically, like in the actual performance, but then in the songs. And then he found somebody who would understand that and interpret that for people. And so it was like, for him, like more important to get the idea of it across than like everybody understand like the American Sign Language and you lose it. I also love that he worked with so many Latin designers, like Latin American designers, and like not just Puerto Rican designers, like Dominican designers and everybody. And I just thought it was so thoughtful. Like the whole time I was just like, gosh, this is so thoughtful. And then it's almost like he gamed the system or engineered the BTS with the fact that he had all those people dressed up as like bushes, because that shit was just made for like behind the scenes social. Like it's been all like, I mean, as much as people just being like, I mean, I have nothing negative on my feed about him. Like everybody's just like,
Same.
But as much as I have the, oh my God, Benito is so amazing, I also have like, I was a bush and here was my life as a bush today. And it was just very funny. So I thought that was also well done.
Yeah. I mean, everything about it. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for Halloween at this point. The thoughtfulness and the storytelling, like this is such an example, and the integrity. Like, I think those are the things to take away with this. Like, and he, like, throughout. And then I think bringing on people like Lady Gaga, but in the style, like not saying, well, do it, you know, in the Gaga style. No, come in and do it in a really Latin way and really lean into it. And she absolutely did. And I just was blown away by how thoughtful and the integrity upheld the entire way in every fucking detail. Kudos.
Yeah.
Can't say
I
enough.
mean, honestly, quite honestly, like you could take just that and say all of the things that we talk about, like being human, and he had all of these like real vendors there, you know, like people in LA being like, oh, I've eaten tacos at that spot, you know, the fact that he brought real people from to get married and like they had invited him to the wedding and then he had them there, you know, like it's just all the lessons that we talk about like what is working right now for brands, he is doing for his personal brand, right? And I think it's, like if you watch one commercial, like watch that.
Yeah.
Because no one else quite did it as well as he did.
Yeah. But again, to me, it just comes back to the integrity. He's doing it because he believes in himself and he believes in his message and he's sharing that with the world. And I think doing that from such a place just magnifies what anyone could do from like a marketing campaign, from a this, from a that. Like it's just, you feel that. You absolutely feel that.
Yeah. No, you felt it. So
All
shall
right.
we move on to the actual commercial spot?
I guess.
I didn't have so many glowing reviews for all of these, but I had some glowing reviews. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, overall,
these are in no particular order, by the way.
None.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, how did they organize these? We didn't. We literally watched commercials and wrote down our answers to the commercials. So you're welcome for us
This is
watching
correct.
way too many commercials.
Yes.
And we will now dissect them in not so great detail because we only have one out.
Right. All right. Instacart.
Yeah, so Instacart was like a funny one for me because Benson Boone, like fantastic casting, right?
Yep.
Like, and you know, pairing him up with Ben Stiller with the Zoolander like vibes of the mustache. I mean, it was just like it was a story that kind of wrote itself, right? And then it all fell apart for me because in the short version of the commercial, they're trying to tell you that like the message behind the actual commercial is like you can get really specific. You can ask for green bananas or ripe bananas or bananas in between. And you kind of can't process that, like, because that message is told to you so early in the beginning of the of this tiny short commercial, and you're just like, is that Benson Boone? Is that, you know, like you're still processing, and they go with the first part. And so I literally had to watch it 3 times to understand the purpose of the entire commercial, which is not a great advertisement for a commercial. And then the long version is just like unhinged and weird. Like it's just like, you know, bizarre Ben Stiller slapstick comedy, and you don't get anything fun out of Benson Boone, and he's just there like with a weird accent, and the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, I think you definitely lost the plot. But we're talking about it, and like, people are definitely talking about it.
Yeah, great casting, great vibe. Started off right. Commercial, like on paper, worked. It just didn't work in execution.
Right.
For me.
Maybe try to do less. Like if the bananas are your thing, lean into that, or otherwise just have it
make that so obvious and have them all be bananas. Why were there also watermelons there? Like I was so fucking confused.
So the takeaway is pure bananas is what we're looking for.
Yes.
That could be the title to the podcast.
The takeaway is don't reveal the key line to understanding your entire commercial while people are still trying to understand what they're watching, because that doesn't help. All right. So then next one, which is a very different ad.
Yes.
And I just liked it for a really completely different reason. It's not that the commercial itself is like anything that special, right? Like it's the idea of the commercial that I think is so clever.
Agreed. So we're talking about TBNP.
Yeah. So if you don't follow TBNP, they're basically like these 2 boys. I mean, they are boys. I think it's fine to say that. They're these 2 boys who've created like probably the biggest, like most influential finance, like new media brand there is right now. Like people follow, they are constantly live streaming, talking about businesses. They're talking about things that are happening in the stock market. They're talking about trading. They're talking about acquisitions, anything that you could possibly imagine.
Yep.
And they're doing it live and they're very entertaining. And, you know, I don't watch them all the time because that's just not my jam, but I do kind of I follow along in the media formats that I can enjoy them in. But what I thought was really good about this commercial was that, like, their whole thing is they constantly having all of these really great businesses come on, right? And talk, but typically it was small businesses, not just gigantic corporations, but people that they really admire who are kind of coming up in the startup world. And they created their logo out of all of the logos of the companies that had come on. And so when they ran the spot, and it was regional, but when they run this spot, like, people were like, oh my God, like, my logo is in the Super Bowl. Like, that's crazy. Like, I have this tiny little brand and I could never afford a Super Bowl commercial. And holy shit, like, Mom, like, I'm on TV, like, during the Super Bowl. And it felt really meaningful to people, I think. Like, they were really excited to see their brand. You know how hard it is to have a brand, like, if you have your own brand.
Sure.
And I just thought that was really cool and clever, because of course it was all over my feed because people were like, oh my God, like, I'm in the commercial. Otherwise I would never have heard of it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think it was definitely, for me, it was definitely the premise of it. And there's been a lot of talk of that, of like, well, media companies don't really advertise. It's kind of the point. They're media companies. And the fact that they did, and the fact that they're like, oh, well, we're just trying to have some fun. We're just doing, like, leaning into things that feel good versus like a thought out kind of marketing campaign, I just think is a really interesting shift of like new media doing something like this. I thought it was really, really significant. And, you know, I'm all for them trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smart delivery.
For sure, I think significant. All right, then I put Liquid IV in here, which the next two were ones that I was just chatting with somebody who's a reader of the letter. Her name was Erica. Shout out to Erica if you're listening.
Erica
does a lot of work in kind of celebrity partnerships, and she was giving me lots of interesting details. But anyway, we were talking about what our favorite commercials were, and she was like, called out these two as being interesting, like not necessarily favorites, I should say. But Liquid IV has this like singing toilets, and they have all these different toilets that are singing the song. And then at the end, the payoff is that, like, the song is about, like, I can't remember the song, but it's a famous one. So go listen to it. It'll make sense to you when I get there. But like at the end, it's like the realization, like, that you've peed in the toilet and it's not yellow because you're so hydrated from Liquid IV, which I thought would resonate with you. So
100%. And it does. It 100% does.
Right. I was like, and now she buys Liquid IV.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Target, ding. Yes.
Right. Sold and sold. So, like, what I would say about this, like, what I would say, like, two things observationally about this that I thought were interesting is, one, I obviously picked a catchy song. Like, you'll know the song if you listen to it. Two, like, it's definitely unhinged. Like, singing toilets is weird. But then, like, it pays off on something that they know people actually want, which is something that people are actually seeking. And I know it sounds weird that people don't want yellow pee, but like that conversation is like just constant in the healthcare space right now. So, like, for sure, it's a thing.
But I think that's a great arc of like a brand understanding like where it wants to go, a bit unhinged, like push it a bit, but they really like, they have that insight and they tie back to that. Like that almost goes back to the banana conversation, which didn't hit. Right. Like that didn't come through. And this, like their insight, their point to kind of really sell the product did actually land.
Exactly. I think you're exactly right. Ding, ding.
All right. Moving on. Got a lot to cover.
And then Coinbase, like, so they had like, they did this, it was like a screen and it's just the words, like the lyrics to everybody, like everybody. So like everybody's like reading the lyrics and singing along to it, which is like, that's kind of genius on its own, right? Like, it's like, okay, everybody's there and they're interacting and they've obviously had a few drinks or they're at least in the spirit. Yep. But then they like basically like insert Coinbase into the song. And it's this moment where you're like, ooh, like so like the whole problem, right, is that with Coinbase, you don't have like great brand perception of Coinbase. Like you either don't know who they are or you don't have great like feelings about them. Like they're not like a brand that like yields great love. So when you sing their name, like you have this feeling of ick, like you've been tricked, which is never great. So clever idea, but like you need to have a good brand. Like it should feel like that should be a crescendo moment where you're like, you know, I can't think of a brand, but if it were like Fishwife, like you'd be like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
But that Coinbase isn't giving yay. Like Coinbase just came out of my mouth. So that was a
Right.
problem.
Right. Yeah.
Clever
That's
idea.
like they lost the insight. Well, I think if the idea can be done to any brand, it's probably not right for yours.
I think the idea is that like anybody can use Coinbase, right? So like I think that was their concept, but I think again, if you don't have good brand love, like that type of commercial, like you have to be able to see that connection as a brand, like and be like, okay, people are gonna feel gross after that. And
Right.
that's never great.
Yeah, that's not great. No, that doesn't help. Okay.
Moving on.
Goodwill Dunkin.
You like this one. You liked this one a lot. Tell us why you liked it.
I mean, I just think they just pulled all of the parts, right? They were really thoughtful about like the cast. It was, loaded cast for sure. And they played into the iconic characters of the 90s, right? Friends, Cheers, Fresh Prince, Family Matters, A Different World. Like they just kind of pulled everybody out of that. And it was cute. And everybody pushed themselves and made a little bit of fun of themselves. And that's what I liked.
Gotcha. I mean, I think that maybe I also just didn't have all of the references necessary for this commercial.
Well,
so
this is the age difference and the references.
Well, and it's the geography. Like I don't have like necessarily all of those to go on. Like one of the things I really like about Dunkin in general is like Ben Affleck is such an odd casting for them, other than the fact that he's from Boston. He's such an oddball. He like really always seems very grouchy, but they somehow make him funny because he is funny. Yeah. And I just really enjoy that, like that is kind of their shtick. And they are sticking with shtick. And it works really well. And they managed to kind of make more of that, because obviously if it was just him constantly, it would get boring. But each year they kind of one up themselves. And I think that was what I enjoyed about this casting. And I will say that this year, there seemed like stacked casting seemed like a big strategy.
Yes, I think that's like, absolutely, wow. Yeah. We'll talk about the recaps at the end, but yeah, stacked casting, I think it often is, but like this is a perfect example of it. And I think they did it with a really, like there's a really clear thread throughout, right? It's like kind of, there were moments when they tied back to every, like Sam coming out from Cheers, like every kind of one of those sitcoms, and like not an over the top way, but just kind of a wink way where you got it. And then Jennifer Aniston to come out at the end with Tom Brady. Like everybody's kind of, taking the piss out of themselves. And I just appreciate when both a brand and then the individuals kind of can do that. And I think especially it resonated for me because of the Patriots playing. And I did have my good friend Chris Plord there and like pushing the Boston accent, which I think only helped kind of be more relevant to me.
You had like backup support to the great ad. I mean, like
100%.
Not everyone gets that.
No, true.
All right, Fanatics. I mean, I wrote about this one before because I think the prediction market space is an odd and interesting space, like and sports betting, like not just prediction markets, but sports betting, and it's just a controversial space. And while that's true, like setting that aside for a minute, taking the Kendall, like the lore that Kendall like has this curse, and they like she pokes fun at herself, and there's like a truth to it, and I just thought it was so clever, like, and it tells the story really well. Like, yeah, I like this commercial a lot. I didn't find much fault with it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's ultimately hitting because it's Kendall, but again, the fact that she can kind of make fun of herself and poke fun, and they pulled in like that really big insight. Like it's obvious, but it's like it's a pretty big insight of like this has happened, and the fact that she's able to lean into that, love it.
I mean, like the entire commercial hinged on her saying yes to make fun of herself. Like that's for sure. That's tough, and that's really about. That's a testament to her, but it's also a testament to her agents being willing to let her do that. So 100% props to whoever pulled that off.
Yeah, and that's just like that's the type of celebrity going forward. Like lean into the vulnerability, the piece. Like that's what people want.
Yeah, but she can do it, and she still came across as like interesting. She wasn't just like slapstick comedy, so I like that. All right, Skittles and Uber Eats. Quite honestly, I had nothing to say here. I was just like, okay, I'm not even sure we should link to them. I will say, like, Bradley Cooper, Matthew McConaughey, Parker Posey, like, I mean, wow, like, talk about a stacked cast, and, like, the fact that you only managed to come away with, like, Uber Eats, like Super Bowl is like, related to food, like, what an uninteresting message. So I was not into that. And then the Skittles one just felt, again, like I enjoyed that Elijah Wood made fun of himself, and he really did make fun of himself, and like the fact that no one knows who he is, like anyone young anyway. But other than that, I was like, it just struck me as one of those classic like Super Bowl commercials where you're just like, you won't remember that 3 weeks from now.
Right, which I think is an interesting contrast, because I think one of the things I was thinking about after kind of going through all of them is like, this raises the bar. And so I think it's really obvious if people haven't done that. And I think those are two examples of like the cast, they did the things on paper, but like the idea, the insight, like they didn't take it to the next level.
Yes. They didn't leave you with anything to remember.
Yeah. All right. Manscaped.
Manscaped. I mean, okay. So the reason like all the things, super ick, like it's very unhinged, it's very weird, super provocative, but like tiny brand, I mean, I'd never heard of them anyway, so maybe it's massive and I just don't know it, but like it has like Dr. Squash vibes, right? Like really like kind of ick male humor. And it has, if you haven't seen the commercial, there's sort of like these piles of hair, and it's about like, it's literally like body hair, like piled up and like talking and singing. Maybe just talking. I think they're
it's talking and singing, but it's the body hair that you've gotten rid of because you've been manscaping,
right? And then it like makes like a quite provocative, almost mention of ball hair at the end, and it was like,
yes, it does.
And I'm sure it appealed to a very particular audience who thought it was very funny.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like sometimes I am that male 18-year-old boy audience. It was like to balance that ick, which it totally was the entire time, but also with funny the entire time. Like that tension is hard to do, and they really did it.
Yeah. So claps to a tiny team.
Yeah.
I don't know if they hired a very big agency to work on that, or if it was just like something they came up with themselves, but it was definitely a risk, and I enjoyed that they took it. All right, Levi's. You like this one a lot. Like, tell me. I watched it too, and I enjoyed it.
I liked this, and a lot of people are like, you started, so you basically see the butts of everybody, and then you start to go through, and it starts with Toy Story, and then you start to go through, and then you realized, because to me, I liked it because they're playing in this space, right? They headline the arena, the sign, like they've got to do something with that, by the way. Hey, Levi's, like do something with their billboard. That should be everywhere tomorrow. But I like that in their ad, they're leaning into Super Bowl, but they're also reinforcing kind of their iconic play. You realize it's everybody's ass that looks great in various Levi's. And to me, it just really reinforces their brand perception and their like iconic nature of the brand. That's what I really like.
Yes, it reminded me of something like there was a commercial once that was like draw ketchup, and then like everybody drew Heinz like as a like thing, and it's like it kind of reminds me of that, like where it's like when you think of jeans, like you think of Levi's, and they did a good job of kind of showing their place in history throughout, and like was fun, and it ends on Doechii, and it has like a good song, like so,
but without being too in your face. That's what I liked about it. Like it was just very subtle, but you reinforce, and like halfway through I was like, oh great, yes.
Yeah, and I like the tagline behind every original. That was good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot they can do with that.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about Pringles for a second. So Sabrina Carpenter, like this Pringles, was it Leo? Chipman?
It was Chipman.
I mean, okay. But
where do you want to start on this one?
I mean, so I went back and forth on this one emotionally, because I was like, okay, on the one hand, what it did do was put the product front and center the whole time. And I always think that that's like such an interesting play, like Levi's, like, like I think, again, not to harp on poor Instacart, but like I literally did not understand what was happening in that commercial. Like I understand that this is a commercial for Pringles. Yeah. At the very least. Yeah. And it's about you desiring Pringles. And I like Sabrina Carpenter. So like, there's a few elements there that should have worked, but it was very unhinged. She's funny and she can be unhinged, but it wasn't unhinged in her style, in my opinion. So it felt off-brand for her. And that was a struggle for me. Right.
I don't think it was either not unhinged enough or not unhinged in the right way. Like that to me didn't quite connect. And that was the missing piece of it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you watched the full length version, the really long version, but it was very unhinged. So I don't think it was not unhinged enough if you watch the long version. The long version is quite unhinged.
Great. But just not in her style. Yeah, there was something that was a miss for me, for sure. Whereas this was not a miss, Pepsi.
You like this one. I did not like this one.
The alphas loved it.
Okay.
The alphas loved it. So I was in like a focus group of a room, right?
I'm
like,
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had like all the generations.
Yes, all the generations. And yeah, they just really loved, and they immediately got like that they stole the bear from Coke and just liked kind of that element of it. I didn't get until I watched it again, the reference to the Coldplay scandal. Like I just thought it was like funny. It wasn't that like pushing it of a concept, but I think what they did do worked.
Yeah. I think I just couldn't, and this was true for a lot of these, is that CGI has always been part of Super Bowl commercials for like decades, right? And CGI gets better and better, and you get to the uncanny valley, and like, you know, we cross it a million times and we get more used to it. But like, I really believe that right now we're in a place where we were maybe 10 years ago, where when you saw CGI, you were like, ooh, that feels weird because it's not used. And I just see so much AI, and I can see it like being quite not, like it's not quite right, doesn't feel quite right, not rendered in the right way. And I just couldn't get over it. Like I was just like so disgusted by that fact. Like I just couldn't enjoy the commercial.
That tracks.
Yeah.
That tracks. I get that. I get that.
All right. POPPI, which is owned by Pepsi. So I thought this was like the two things.
Good segue.
You know, thank you. At least there's one in here.
One.
But so they cast Charlie XCX, and then Rachel Sennott, who I didn't know, but great that they cast someone I didn't know. But it was like, I don't know, like I just really struggled with it. It was like I enjoyed the vibes thing. I like her, like, you know, it wasn't a bad commercial, but it felt like a commercial that like the premise of the commercial I've seen 1,000 times. Like this brand, like drinking this, I mean, literally, like maybe Pepsi had a commercial like this, where it's like you drink this Pepsi and you're transported into like another world, and then you come back and it's like, oh, and then they're like, can I have one of those? Like the least original like premise. So I was bothered by that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something that didn't click for me on it, but it felt more like, oh, maybe it's like for this audience. This is for this younger, like, you know, version.
Yeah. I mean, I did like the vibes exit sign. That was like, I could imagine that working for people, but yeah. All right. And then XFINITY, which like the fact that we are talking about XFINITY on this podcast, I think is just like really like kudos to them, because I don't know how we got here. And I thought this one was really funny, but it obviously was very much targeted at my generation. I was like a child of Jurassic Park. So I was like, oh, this is immediately, I was like in. I was like, oh my God, like I'm in. But they used the old footage from Jurassic Park, and then they like come in and they have this joke where they're like, oh yeah, you have to plug in the XFINITY, and the XFINITY like changes the course of the Jurassic Park story, right? And like the fact that the Wi-Fi and the power is working like changes the entire narrative of Jurassic Park, and then everything good happens instead of everybody being eaten and killed. And I just thought that it was really funny, like, and you know, I showed it to my husband just to check that it wasn't just me, because like my family did watch Jurassic Park a lot, and he enjoyed it too. So I think it hit for a very narrow demo anyway. Yeah,
I mean, it hit for me, and wasn't a huge fan, but it was the cast. It was 100% the cast that made this work. But I will say, and you know, again, the fact that we're talking about them, XFINITY did a great job of like, you know, leaning into the cast and kind of the arc of that, but really being thoughtful about how and why kind of the story shows up along the way, and has it kind of really tied together. Like there's the insights in there, and it works.
And the product makes the joke work. Again, like this is poor Instacart, because I actually don't dislike Instacart's brands, and
it's a better brand than XFINITY, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but like I just felt like, again, like it was just like, this is another example of like, you need to understand the payoff. And so the payoff was really clear to me. Yeah. So it was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that they did it with the old footage, et cetera, was great. Okay. This guy, Raisin Bran, Will Shatner, who will now be known as
Will Shat. And I just thought that this was an example to me. It was one of my favorites, because it was like one of those moments you can picture the pitch, right? Like it's almost like they didn't change it from the pitch. Yeah. And so like when you can see the purity of somebody's idea and they actually just said, yes, you can do that. And you have a legacy brand that has no amount of unhinged and weirdness in it, as far as I'm concerned, a category that is dead in the water. Like nobody's eating cereal. And then, you know, like they're saying, hey, like we should be fiber. And then they're making poop jokes. And like, it's just, I thought it was really clever because it was like clearly like somebody's idea. And it was like, I don't think that AI came up with that. Like, I think that was just somebody has a sense of humor and like pitched that and they said yes.
Totally. And I think the casting was a huge part of that, of like, and if we could make it even more unhinged, if we had, you know, William Shatner, like he has come back from, you know, not going to say the dead, but like he's come back and reinvented himself in so many ways for so many unhinged kind of advertising spots for like I feel like the last like 50 years.
Yes.
Like he's made an entire second career off of it. Yeah. And so for them to really lean into that and then have it work, like kudos, well done.
Yeah, I really liked it. Okay, so now speaking about something that I didn't understand completely. So Nerds cast Andy Cohen in their commercial. Well, first of all, like, so I saw like this thing, probably on snack shops, like Instagram, and it was like, why is Andy Cohen in a Nerds ad? And I just want to explain to you that the reason that Andy Cohen, so everyone was like, this is my interpretation. They were like, how on earth did like these two things come together?
Yes.
And here's my reasoning that somebody made. This is my thought. Is Andy Cohen's audience, 100% of his audience comes from Real Housewives.
Yep.
Real Housewives audience is moms. And so Andy Cohen's audience is moms. And so someone said, Andy Cohen has a lot of audience with moms. Moms are the ones who gatekeep candy. Let's like merge these two things together so that nobody hates them anymore. And then you get this spot. That's the only thing I can think of because
I think that makes total sense. And I adore Andy Cohen, but I will say again, the focus group of the room I was in last night, all the moms are like, we're watching a commercial about nerds. Like nobody, you know, understood it.
Well, that's the thing is that like again, it's a little bit like Coinbase. Candy has a perception problem right now, like a bad one, obviously. Probably has for a really long time, but specifically now it's really not doing well. It's got all the fake sugars, it's got all the fake colorings, like it's all the things like is the opposite of the new food pyramid. And so like it just, you can't get there. Like you can't, the leap is too big. You can't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's I don't think they tried to have you like fit it in snack packs, like energy for like, there's ways I think that it could have been delivered if it's really targeting to moms that they didn't at all lean into. Yeah. But with that, and again, I love Andy Cohen. Yeah. But I get that logic and I agree with that. Okay. Another
now
one.
Talking about,
that didn't hit.
People we love. Well, people that I love though, like I love John Hamm.
Yes.
I love Bowen Yang.
I love her.
I like Scarlett Johansson. Like, I don't dislike her, certainly. And I just couldn't understand, like, how we got here. Like, I was like, this was the definition of confused. And also, why did John Hamm's face look like that? It was almost like they AI'd him into it. Like, he was so smooth that it almost looked like it wasn't really him. Or he was like, and he just doesn't come across as somebody who like cares that much about their appearance. So like, why did you mess with him so much? Very strange.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, like I love all of these individuals. I agree with you on Scarlett, but I think I like, to me, this is the opposite of like, you can't see like kind of the pitch room gone awry. Like, I'm not sure that the casting makes any sense together. The idea, like there isn't really an insight or an idea to say, we're going to pull this all together and make this. And I do think with RITZ, like there's a lot of directions that you could lean into with RITZ and make it unhinged or make it really funny or do something that does feel meaningful. Like, I think that's, you know, unlike maybe cereal and candy at the moment, like they could have a moment.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about a candy that actually I thought like did okay. Did you watch this one?
I did. I didn't watch it in the Super Bowl, but I watched it after. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like you say no bueno all the time, so I just couldn't stop laughing because I was like, this is your like commercial.
Yeah, I didn't get it as much in the commercial the way that it was done. Like, I think it needed to be lean in even more so. It just felt like a contrast. It felt like they were kind of hitting the brief every time versus like really going for it.
Fair enough. I thought that the line was memorable enough that like for me, like the fact that they said that, like it's like sometimes you just need something to stick in your head, like a little, like there's other ones in here where the lines like really work for me and I'm like, okay, like there's like an earwig and you just get it. And like, so what I liked about it was that it was like every time I say no bueno, I'm gonna think of and that works for me as a strategy. Okay, I'm not even going to try to say
I thought you
brand.
might. Okay, I thought you might. I was just sitting here waiting for it.
I mean, no. But there's a couple of PSA ones in here that because I thought I saw a couple of them and I thought they were good. And like love this commercial, but it was a commercial.
It's the urine test one.
It's for a urine test for UACR. It's like a kidney test that you can take specifically targeted at women to like identify, like apparently your kidneys, what I learned from this commercial is that your kidneys are a warning sign. It can be an early warning sign for stroke or heart attack. So I was like, okay, I actually learned something in this commercial. I actually learned something about women's health, which is basically like completely underrepresented always. Like two great stars who I believe are kind of like good people and like in it for the right reasons. So I enjoyed that. And, you know, it was a little bit classic, but like pretty good for a PSA for a pharma.
Yes, I agree. And we had like a 10-minute conversation following up on that of like your own urine can actually be a peptide and you can inject it or you can just bathe in it or you can do all of these things of how good it is for you.
We don't need to do that.
So
We're
like
not
the
adding
fact
that to the mix of health care trends.
I mean, not now, but maybe next predictions, you'll be talking about it. But I think the fact that it did hit on women, the fact that it did like bring something up and the fact that we were having a conversation about it, no matter how unhinged it was. And I agree. Like, I wouldn't never have put these two women together, but I adore them both.
Right. And then Novartis did this PSA for colon cancer, which was geared at men. And I thought this one was very funny. Like, truly like an actually engaging commercial. Like I was like, oh, who are all like, why are all these tight end football players like they're relaxing? Like, so you're engaged and you're kind of like confused, and which is always like, I think a good way of kind of pulling people in, like in a fun way. And then they kind of lean onto the like relax your tight end, and then you see all of these butts like kind of like release the clench, and they tell you that you no longer have to like have your colon cancer test like done the way that you dread, and that you can just do it by the blood test. And so I just think it's such like, it was a great payoff. It was really well done, funny. It's like props.
Yeah. I mean, the PSAs in this one, really thinking about it, like really leaning into and getting past the shame of it, like I'm all for. And I think part of the reason that this particular one worked, unlike some of the other ones we've talked about, is it was really in the way that it was shot, and you thought it was going somewhere completely different. It was, the music was beautiful. It was like visually, right. Like the art direction was nice. It was kind of taking you to a completely different world. Like it wasn't kind of like dumb and slapstick from the start. So I think that was part of what really worked about this.
Yeah, no, it's really, I thought it was like a great art, because you were like, where are we going here? And then like you ended up somewhere funny, and you're like delighted to be there at the end.
Totally. But it was hard. There's that middle of heartfelt of whoever it was that was saying, oh, this happened to me. Yes. Like it was a good balance throughout. The storytelling was good.
Yeah. Really
okay.
Good.
Squarespace.
I mean, I watched the long version of this one, and let me just tell you, like, I regretted every moment of it. It's like a film noir / horror vibes, like with Emma Stone, who may or may not be relevant. Like, I don't feel like she's hyper relevant right now. So to like fixate on her name for the entire commercial was really tough for me. And it was like really threatening, like, get your domain now. Like, you know, is like, you're going to lose, like, and then she's like breaking all of these expensive laptops. So I was like bothered by the wastefulness of it. Like, I just was like everything about this commercial made me a bit angry. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, it felt like they really just missed. And I like Emma Stone, and I like there was a film that she did that was kind of this vibe, and I think she's quite a good actress. But I just to me, it just totally missed the plot.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about Roe. We have a bunch of medical ones in here, which was interesting. So you liked this one?
I liked it because I think it fits the audience. I think it feels like heartfelt. I think it feels clear. I think like for the people that need it and what she's talking about. And I think it's well cast.
Yeah. I mean, she's an investor in the campaigns.
But I think like,
you know, like in the brand. Yeah, I thought it did a good job of like showing how the app worked. Like, you know, like the actual commercial itself was like pretty lo-fi and like non-inspiring. Like she's inspiring, but like I wasn't inspired. But it was it was a functional commercial for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it was like it did the job, but I wasn't it wasn't like leaving inspired.
No, it wasn't inspired.
Let's talk about one that was trying to be inspiring and they absolutely despised.
Yes.
So Mr. Beast teamed up with Slack and Salesforce. And first of all, like everyone that I talked to was like, wait, Slack is owned by Salesforce, which like Salesforce does, again, brand perception. Like I was like, this isn't the moment to like really reveal this. And if everybody knew it already, like it was like not, it was new information to a lot of people that I spend time with. So
yeah,
it
I
just
feel like
immediately gives
say
you
on that. Like if you're a big company, like don't get bigger and share people. Like that's not lean in the other direction.
Yeah. And then it was just like, to me, like I just really didn't I saw this behind the scenes thing about like, it's like, well, our team like really does use Slack and uses Salesforce. And I'm like, you know what Salesforce is for, right? Like, I just didn't understand that part. Slack I could understand, but like, it was just, I was like, I don't think that Mr. Beast's audience and Slack's audience are the same audience. Like, I just don't get it. Like, and I'm like, did I miss something? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just getting views because Mr. Beast like offers to pay people $1 million. Like, that just feels like, I don't know. I'm so over that framework. Thanks.
Yeah, this feels like outdated and it didn't hit. And I think what's interesting is it didn't hit for either audience.
Okay. Hudson wasn't like, Mr.
Hudson and
Beast.
Bo were like, meh. And they're like big fans. Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't fucking care about Slack.
Right. No. Throw a candy bar in there or something, like they'd be into it. But like, yeah. They were not. Nope.
No. All right. So Ramp, whose advertising generally I like, and like, you know, I didn't dislike this one. Like, multiply what's possible, and then they have like a bunch of like Kevins, or the guy from The Office, like Brian, whatever his last name is. And he's certainly like kind of being turned into a mascot for them, like a little bit like William Shatner was like for another brand for like forever. And I don't dislike that, but what bothers me about that actually is that when they first did that with him, like when they first did the commercial with him, I thought it was really fun and innovative. And then he like, this feels like a really traditional approach to building brand, which to me, like they are an untraditional brand and like not used to following the frameworks. So that's kind of like what I didn't like about it, was that it just gave me like old school brand. Oh, like we've gotten big enough and now we're just in the old school brand, like commercial world. And I didn't like, I was like, come on, Ramp, like give me something.
Yeah, I feel that's a great point. Like, it feels like instead of continuing to innovate and iterate off of the brief, like they just leaned into like, oh, it'll be fine if we just do this, versus like, okay, who's the next Kevin, or what can we find, who's an iconic of this particular show or this era or whatever it might be, and keep pushing with that insight and kind of that brief versus the same old.
Exactly. Like, I think there's just so many like you could lean into the character of like somebody who's like really into spreadsheets and like show some diversity in there, like, you know, show some difference, and they just didn't do that. So that was just a bit disappointing for me. It wasn't a bad commercial, it was just a bit disappointing. OpenAI though, I mean, talk about that, like disappointing, just incredibly boring. And like, I think it's just really tough to do a heartfelt brand ad. And I will say Google, like we're going to talk about Google in a second, they do it very well. And when you don't hit the right note, like you can just build, like it just didn't feel, it was kind of going off of like throughout history we've been builders and like we can continue to be builders and we're part of that legacy, and nothing felt rah-rah about it. Like I don't think that people have that perception of them, and they've done nothing to build that perception, whereas Google has been hammering home this like we're of the people like brand personality for centuries, it feels. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think OpenAI, much like Coinbase that we were talking about at the beginning, tried to lean into something that was kind of beloved brand and that was of this element, but they haven't done anything to kind of build in that way. And so when you're trying to lean into like, oh yeah, people feel about us in this way as a brand and they don't, like that's a real big miss. That's a real big trip.
Yeah. So just quickly, because we're running out of time, at Google, I think they do a great job of heartfelt brands. The fact that, I don't know if you watched the ad, but like they like, and maybe there was more than one, but the one I watched, it was like, this is how you build in Gemini. And it was like a parent and they're taking their kid through like, this is what our new house is going to look like. And it was just a really like great human story. And they do that every time. And they've built that legacy. And like every single time you come away from a Google brand, like ad, you want to cry. Like you're like, this is a real experience that people have. And like, that is a skill and they do it very well.
Totally. It's relatable. And they pulled like a true insight. Cause I was like, oh, Sailor would love this. Yes. Agreed. Yeah. Okay. Keep us going.
Claude was funny because they poked the bear of AI, right? So they like did this ad where it's like there was like this personal trainer and he's pretending to be like OpenAI and like he's kind of self-congratulating this poor boy, and then they essentially like slip in the fact that this is an ad and he like insults the person with the ad. And, you know, Claude's not planning on having ads. And there are like, obviously, like people feel conflicted about AI ads, and they should. And they played into this kind of fear escape and they put themselves on the right side of history type of feeling. And so it was just, then they did it in a funny way. But of course, like OpenAI has hit back in a very angry way. But like, I think that was to be expected.
Right. But I think the fact that they went head on, and there were a couple of different versions of it, but it's just leaning in and just seeing how inappropriate it would be. And I just think the fact that like they're saying the thing and they poke the bear and they have the balls to do that, like, well done.
Right.
All right. Bud Light.
Bud Light, stack cast, funny. I think I must have seen the long version because it was quite long, but it was very funny. Like it did a good job of like pulling in a football player, but other people like throughout. Like the story was funny, like the product was front and center the whole time. Again, I don't sound like a broken record, but like really, like it does matter. And I thought it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is like more of a traditional Super Bowl spot, but because of the storytelling that they did, because Peyton Manning like pops up and he's like, guys, there's a trail. Like, what are you doing? Like, it just shows kind of the ridiculousness of it. And I think that that was a really strong kind of story arc and then the beer at the end, like it was well done and could have just been like meh.
And they had like not a cohesive cast, but they kind of made that tension work. And like that was built into the story versus just like not talked about. So like that made it funny.
Yeah.
And then I would say Bosch, like again, like gazillion people in the Bosch ads. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine the budget that's going on here. But I didn't really enjoy the commercials, but I thought that it was a 10 out of 10 campaign line, which is like, it says, the more you Bosch, the more you feel like a Bosch. I just thought was so funny. Like because it's all about being a boss and like feeling like a boss. And so it felt funny that you can't really say it properly and you're kind of like fumbling through it. That was
clever. Guy Fieri.
The actual execution. Yeah.
I saw the Guy Fieri versions, and I think it resonated with the audience for sure.
But they also had a Antonio Banderas one, and they had like other ones that were like, in my opinion, funnier because I'm not a big Guy Fieri fan.
Right. But with the kids, I think he's having to come back. Okay.
Svedka, I didn't get it. Didn't feel like much to me.
It didn't, and I think that's the underlying. It was completely AI created, and it was like snooze fest.
But it was an exact like example of like, how can we, like, I had this other theory that like nobody used AI to create humans because we would have had a like absolute shit fit. So everybody used AI where they thought they could use it, like the bear, the robots, like anywhere safe that they thought they could use it, they used it. And it just really didn't hit for me. There was no story. I didn't get it.
Snooze.
The REALFOOD.GOV like PSA with Mike Tyson about Maha's processed foods, like, I mean, we probably have to unpack that as like a separate trends topic because the mental health connection that RFK is pushing lately with food is like fascinating to me. And we should just unpack that on another day. Because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, the casting choice, the just eating apples, it was interesting. Everybody's like, who's this about? What? And then the line at the end. Yeah. Okay.
And it's like, if I'm trying to live up to be anyone, it's not Mike Tyson.
I mean, the comment section around the ears are food, all the things
Elf's commercial was one of my favorites. So funny. Melissa McCarthy and this funny telenovela, and the whole point of it is like we're all trying to learn Spanish ahead of the Super Bowl, and then she like puts on this lipstick and it helps her like roll her R's, and it's just like, it's funny because it's timely, right? Like, and it's related to the specific time that you're watching. So I thought that was really funny. She's funny. The execution of it being a telenovela, like, also with like the whole like Spanish thing, like it was just clever. I enjoyed it. It was like great.
Yeah, I liked seeing Elf move into this space and do something that felt a little bit like, not sure, like they're not just leading into kind of some of the elements that they have in the past, whether it's, somebody else or like leading into kind of, it felt like they were doing something that felt a little bit different and a little bit new for them, which I really liked, but still super relevant.
Yeah. All right. Grubhub. I only include this one in here because I actually think that this is another one where the line becomes the thing that you remember, right? Like sometimes a tagline like sticks with people and then they say it over and over again. Like at least that used to happen like a long time ago. And the whole commercial is around this idea of Grubhub will eat the fees. And it's all of these people being like, I can't eat fees for dinner. And then there's another person that's like, fees make me feel sick. And then, George Clooney is like, well, Grubhub will eat the fees. And it's just like, you remember that they won't have fees. Like, so it's like, you automatically like them. So I thought didn't hate it. It's like a product benefit, product difference anyway.
Okay. Seemed like it did the trick.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why George Clooney's in it, but like, that's another day.
Because we're talking about it. That's why.
And then Dove did a nice commercial. Like, it's like feel good. Like, it was like, it spotlights like sort of young girls dropping out of sports and saying like, you know, like we should, what is the line that they used? It was like,
it started with a percentage of like 1 in 4 girls will drop out of sports because of body confidence issues, something like that.
Which seems to be like a statistic that like a lot of brands have been using lately. Like we've talked about this, like multiple campaigns, like, and commercials from various different brands, Nike, other ones have kind of like latched onto this. And it wasn't a bad commercial. It just didn't feel like it didn't have the memorability of like a classic Dove commercial to me, like where you're just like sobbing, and like, it felt like a younger version of Dove, but like without the like payoff, the emotional payoff that you
I completely agree. And like it came on, and especially all the women were like, stop talking, we want to watch it, because you knew it was Dove. You were waiting for the impact, you were waiting for kind of the tears, and it didn't really live up to that. And I think if they're going to continue to move in this space, which, you know, they've definitely created for themselves, and I think it's a space that they can continue to go into, but I think they've got to kind of continue to up the bar, much like a Nike commercial. Like, you really want to feel in that, you want to have a tear, you want something to kind of hit that is emotional and that is true. And I think they've got to dig a little deeper.
Yeah. And I think there are things, like, it's not that the message was wrong, it's just that the ad didn't quite get there. Hers and Hims, rich people live longer, like super dystopian beginning, right? But then when you get through the dystopian beginning, which like really quite like was hard to watch, the message of like access and like the frontier of good health is really changed, and like what good health and like health care access now means, and like what like I thought was spot on to everything that we talk about in the letter. So that part I liked. The beginning was tough to watch.
Yeah, I would have rather them led with the inspiration versus the, you know, terribleness of it. But
yeah. And then you had one on here that was like AI.com, and then I tried to find this ad and I literally couldn't find it. So I don't know.
I mean, I think it's because their site crashed that you couldn't find it. So it was like just a terrible, you know, AI.com, like, you know, I'm sure it was all AI generated, like nothing earth shattering, nothing like informative, nothing but like AI.com. And then obviously a bunch of people went to their site to try to find it, and their site crashed because they were gearing up for, you know, a lot of traffic, but clearly not enough that I just find that. So, you know, well, here we are.
All right. Well, on that note.
But so the big themes, right? The big themes were kind of this, you know, huge cast, which I think we often see, but I think it was really the ones that really won for me are the ones that were really thoughtful about the casting in that, like how the people played off of each other.
Yes. And then, you know, I think there was a lot of dark ads. There were a lot of unhinged ads. I don't think next year we'll see so many unhinged ads. I think that the ethers of the I'm in, like, people are kind of over unhinged. So we'll see kind of that shift. And I thought that, again, like, the more human ones, the ones that kind of told stories, the ones that like really got you there were the ones that really stood out to me. Not like necessarily like Google, like heartfelt, like that kind, but ones that really showed human creativity and like cleverness, I thought were the ones that really, really were excellent and had a great example of where to go next year. It should be good to think about.
Totally. And I thought it was, I absolutely agree. And I think it was interesting that the ones that really leaned into humanity were like insurance commercials or PSAs or things like that, whereas like AI or anything tech really didn't lean into that at all.
No, their clothes was funny. All right, this was super fun. Hope you found it valuable. Hope you found it entertaining. Hope you watched all of the commercials, because one thing that we have to say at the end of this is that everybody who worked on these commercials worked very hard.
Yes.
So even if we said something negative, I really respect all the effort that the teams put in, because it's not easy to do these things.
No, never. And to put yourself out there. And overall, like, again, it was just such an inspiring thing to watch from kind of the ads, but certainly the halftime show and walking away with that and my feed and all the things. Yeah, pretty inspired by that. But would love to hear your thoughts on any of the spots on these, on what you thought overall.
Any we missed?
Yes.
If you saw great ones, like, point them out in the comments and let us know what you thought.
All right. Okay. And if you enjoyed it, share it with somebody. Give the algorithm a little love.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
Stay curious.
That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.